So, dear viewers, I welcome you all in the Mentum Virtual Town Hall, where I interact with experts on contemporary issues. Today, my guest is an expert in the area of BRICS and international law, and my friend from Moscow, Dr. Igor Semenovsky. We will be discussing the issue of COVID-19 in global economy. Dr. Igor is presently working in the State Duma House of the Federal Assembly of Russian Federation. He has PhD in law and has extensively worked in the area of international relations and BRICS. Currently, he serves as lecturer in the Department of Economic Activity and Legal Regulation, Financial University, Moscow. He has led several projects for the Russian Federation. In 2018, he was Russia's delegation member at the third BRICS Young Scientist Forum in Durban, South Africa. For 2018 and 19, he represented Russian Federation in BRICS International School, sponsored by Russian National Committee on BRICS Research and Alexander Gorbachev Public Diplomacy Fund, where we work together. He has completed several marathons and has been the member of Arctic delegation. Igor, a very warm good afternoon, and I hope that you are doing well. So I will start with the first question, Igor. What are your thoughts on the COVID-19 as a pandemic?
Nair, hello, dear guests, dear colleagues. May I start?
Yes, yes.
If you allow me.
Yes,
Thank you very much
yes.
for this respectful introduction. It's very honorable to me to speak with you and with such auditory. And yes, the problem of COVID is a global pandemic, and no one can expect that it will be widespread so long, so far, so it will have a lot. It will have a lot of scale. So as about international economy and international relations, I observe a lot of sources, a lot of persons and leaders who is speaking on this matter, and of course I wonder about the possible implications of this pandemic. For instance, Kristalina Georgieva, the head of International Monetary Fund, she sees that is a special threat in the possibility of wave of bankruptcies and job cuts, which can not only undermine the ability of the economy to recover, but also destroy the very foundation of society. And I think it's a very huge challenge. For instance, she continues that the global economy plunged into recession, at least not less than in 2009, but it could be much more worse. So I expect, and a lot of experts, high experts expect that the global economy is going to recession in this year. And experts of the Davos Economic Forum, experts of another respectful international organizations are calling to take special governmental measures in order to make the implications much more better than it could be without these measures. And of course, the matter is a special one because we haven't faced it before. And for instance, my family example of my grandmother that is 90 years old, and she haven't faced with this even before, and during the pandemic in the middle of the 20th century, there is no such cases. But I think the one peculiarity that we can underline special, that we can see the process of pandemic online, even in the cases of bird flu, in the cases of Zika, in the cases of Ebola. We haven't seen in online regime. Yes, and everyone can fear, everyone can show its fear, everyone can show its panic. And unfortunately, these are the bad characteristics of current situation in the world.
Yes. Now, you have highlighted all these issues which are coming up related to the economy, and your area of expertise is international law. So how international law will change, or what kind of impact the COVID-19 will have on international law. For example, particularly the issues which may be affected on international law with respect to COVID-19 in the future. And right now is, for example, surveillance issues, the electronic data and medical data privacy. What about these issues? So how international law is going to change, or how COVID is going to impact the international law?
Okay, thank you for a question. It's very interesting but complicated question because, as I mentioned before, this is the first time when we face this problem around the world, and
Yes.
the international law haven't faced with these problems. Of course, we created a lot of institutions that work on the high level and the highest level, United Nations. It's special institutions like World Organization of Healthcare, etc. But we have no special measures at the level of the international agreements around the world. So we have the bilateral agreements, we have the agreements on the level at different international organizations, such as, for instance, European Union, or maybe in intra European level, or maybe in the level of the trilateral agreements, for instance, Commonwealth of Independent States, the former Russia's territories, etc. But at the level of the international law, I think it's a challenge because the pandemic showed that no one is able to fight the virus alone. Even the world powers can hardly stop it. Paradoxically, but the importance of the international organization can and should increase. I think at this moment, the countries realize that they're often defenseless. The role of these bodies, if they of course will act as they should, will be critical. And according to the international law, as I can repeat, we have no special instruments, and this is the case. We have to elaborate these cases in future and the special measures. And of course, we can just await the unity of the world and the following of the common recommendations that issued by these organizations. But the international law is the law of the mutual agreements, and there is no power to introduce a force in order to lead these recommendations. So that is. And the last point I want to mention is that it's an interesting case for the globalization or deglobalization processes. So we can see that globalization doesn't able to respond to the challenge, and
so you have rightly pointed out that the unity of the world is very important in this kind of pandemic. But when you say to me unity of the world, one of the important things which is arising is that the rejection of World Health Organization by the United States of America, and the tussle between the United States of America and the China with respect to how this emerged and how this pandemic spread all over the world. So when we talk about unity of the world, and then we see that the first world is not responding properly, or the international agencies which were actually responsible for health of the world, who claim to be responsible for the health of the world, how they are acting now. So do you think that this Western hegemony of healthcare or health sector is now collapsing?
Yeah, a very special case again, and sorry, very special case, and I think you mentioned the very interesting contradictions between United States and the World Healthcare Organization, between the United States and China. And the pandemic case is a case of how do the national states react on this problem, and how do the organizations created by these independent states act at this level. And I think that contradictions between the United States and the World Health Care Organization are very sorry, very remarkable, because United States president is very significant man in the world, but he tried to show us that there is no special support to the United States from World Health Care Organization. There is no any predictions from these organizations special to the United States, but it's the organization that acting in the best of interest of the around the world, but not for a special country. And of course, it's the United States innocent by itself that they couldn't react in the manner that was recommended by the World Health Care Organization. For instance, Trump closed its borders very late, and the people closed at their homes very late, and that's why we can see the widespread of this illness around the United States.
Okay, so now next question, as we work on BRICS, what are your thoughts that how the COVID-19 will impact the relationship between the BRICS countries? Because that is very important for us, because this is a bloc which is emerging outside of this Western hegemony. So how the relationships will be affected, whether it will be better or it will be worse, what will happen with respect to BRICS and in the times of this pandemic and after this pandemic also?
Yeah, it's a very pleasant question, and frankly speaking, I believe in BRICS and in the unity
we
of
believe in BRICS.
Yes, we believe in BRICS. We trust.
Yes.
So, but
you remember that 1, 2, 3 BRICS?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Great memories, Nair.
Yes.
As we see the details and the current numbers concerning the widespread of the of our illness in the BRICS countries, unfortunately, we are one of the leaders in the world, maybe due to our great population around the world, because we are the 1/2 of the population in the world. But the numbers and the figures are not so fair. China is at the 6th place, Brazil at the 14th place, Russia at the 16th place, India at 22nd place, and South Africa at 53rd place. Regarding the number of infected people, China's leadership fortunately get down, and 8,300 people were infected. In Brazil, 20,000. In Russia, 15,000 per according to this morning information. India, according to this morning, in 2 times less, 800 people, and South Africa 200 people. So in Russia, we ran a special roundtable devoting to the matter of how we can react to the around the BRICS, in the BRICS framework, how we can react in this situation. And there were a lot of experts from BRICS countries, and they propose some cases how can we react at the exchanging of information, exchange of technologies, and according to the our society's reaction as societies with strong leaders and with a strong system of order in our societies. And of course, BRICS, you've mentioned that we are not hegemonists of the world, and we can evaluate the situation in the framework of quite detailed analysis without political sounds. And I suppose that our leaders will connect, and at the political level, I observed a lot of contacts, for instance, between Russia and China ministers for foreign affairs, their deputies on the level of the presidents and the presidents of Russia and India. I know they're in contact, and at the on the line of our healthcare departments and in the line of our foreign international affairs. And of course, it's a challenge. And I suppose that this team of pandemic will be in the focus of the BRICS leaders meeting. I don't know will it be online or offline. It depends on development of the situation, but I hope we will create such mechanisms that will allow us to react together to such challenges in future. And this very good lesson for BRICS countries that happened in the world.
Okay, I got the last question for you.
Okay.
That what is the current situation in Russia and what is the response of the government, whether there is lockdown and what are the conditions of the lockdown, because then the viewers can compare the lockdown of India with the lockdown of Russia. So do we have lockdown there? What is the condition over there? Like these kind of scenario the viewers would like to know about.
Okay, thank you, Nair. I think currently we have very good examples how to react to this challenge and the good practices, bad practices, and the worst practices. And as I mentioned before, this in a great extent it depends on the react of the society as the union bloc. And do we fulfill, do we perform the recommendations the authorities acts, and or we will not do it. So I think that the Russia, according to the situation around the world, we are at the foot of this hill, and the situation will, unfortunately, the situation will be worse in Russia. And today we have 15,000 of infected people, but just a week ago we had just 2,500. So the progression is getting worse. And of course, Russian government took special measures. We are at home as around the world, and we have our Yandex internet giant created, especially it's created a special isolation index that allows to see how a lot of people at the streets. And of course, their governmental institutions have to work. They have to work because we have to uphold our current life. And
so the lockdown is 100% lockdown is there. What about small businesses? What about factories? They're shut.
Okay. Yeah, as concrete for this question, Russia took two pockets of the measures concerning the small and medium business, and now they are elaborating special measures for great business. So one of the measures is tax deferral. It applies to small and medium-sized businesses that pay taxes. So the deferral of payment of insurance premiums, it applies also to the small and medium businesses. Deferral of the payment to the social insurance fund, to the health insurance fund. So our Federal Tax Service adopted postponement of reporting and declarations on the tax matters.
It means that for viewers, if what you are saying is that financial burden has been eased down on the small medium enterprises.
Yeah,
there's no financial burden now.
Yeah, excepting value added tax. All the taxes are postponed for at least 6 months. At least 6 months.
Okay.
Excluding value added tax.
Okay, excluding. Okay. And what about activities? Means manufacturing activities are going on or they are stopped?
Okay, yes. We at the first week of our quarantine, we blocked all the job of the business, small, medium business, great business. But after the week of the quarantine, we divided the situation at the different levels of our governments.
Okay.
At the federal level, it's closed such enterprises as small and medium business in the services they are closing. Okay. But you cannot go to the restaurants, to the theaters, to the
service sector is closed. Okay.
Yeah, no place to go.
Okay. What about
But
banking services?
banking institutions are working, and
Okay.
insurance institutions are working, and they're not full of people, of course, because we have very good, especially in comparison with Europe or with the United States, we have very diversified services, online services,
Online
and we
services.
can open our scores, we can pay online, we can pay for the different services, etc.
Yes,
So
yes. I have used Yandex services when I was there.
enjoy it, please. And that's about manufacturing and the producers in the regions of Russia. You know, Russia is a federal state. We have the great entities of our federation. Their number is 85 in Russia, the hugest federation in the world. And the president grants the powers, grants the authorities to the regional level in order to take a decision what kind of manufacturers or services may be open or not. So the situation in Russian regions with coronavirus is different, and 82 Russian regions have the pandemic cases,
Okay.
and the 3 regions of Russia have no faced with the coronavirus.
Okay. One more thing that there are, for example, if I see in India, there are lots of laborers and workers who aren't on daily basis. Okay. So
A lot of liberals.
a lot of workers who work on daily basis. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So every day they have to earn and then they spend that money. So what about those kind of workers in Russia? How you are tackling that problem? How the government is helping them when they are not
Alcohol
working?
manufacturing.
Uh,
Alcohol manufacturing, as I heard it
okay.
precisely.
So for example, those workers who have to earn every day,
Yeah.
they are not going into the businesses because the businesses are closed down. So what
Yep.
the Russian government is doing for them, how they are eating, how they are purchasing their things, this I want to know.
Okay, of course, it allows to Russian people to go to the pharmacies, to the shops, and to the necessary cases. Even they are not working, it's allowed to. It's not forbidden to go for walk with your dogs or cats if it's necessary, but it's forbidden to go for a walk without any reason, without any help to other people, without volunteering. So if I want to run as a runner, I have no allowance to do it.
Okay.
But of course, I have to go to the walk on the day after tomorrow because it will be plenary session of the State Duma. We reduced also our number of plenary sessions during the coronavirus, but the higher education legislation organ body will be work around the pandemic.
And the government is giving some kind of financial assistance to the people who are in need or not?
Yes, because the tax measures that adopted by the government, they was proposed by government. They were proposed by government, but these actions concerning tax code of Russian Federation and is a federal law. That's why we adopted these decisions through the State Duma. And also we increase the responsibility for and punishment for the infringement of the regime of self-isolation, and the fines was higher, was getting higher, and the even criminal procedure, even criminal court make the responsibility greater.
Thank you so much. So Igor, that is in Russian, huh? Igor.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Igor.
Igor Semensky, thank you so much for sharing your expert opinion on the COVID-19 and global economic issues. I hope to engage you in future as well. For my viewers, give your thoughts on the discussion in the comments box and do subscribe my channel for future updates.